Billy Dunlap, our lead official today. Dye and Slauson, the featured combo inside, the opening tip. And Bubba Parham and the Samford Bulldogs doing battle here just outside of Birmingham, Alabama against the Furman Paladins. Paladins won the first game of the season up in Greenville, South Carolina in overtime. That was the first SoCon loss and one of just 2 for the Samford Bulldogs. Glover, shot clock coming up on 5. There's Marshall working on Slauson, one of the best defenders in the conference. Clock did not reset, and the Bulldogs will give it up. We're going to talk a lot today about pace of play.
And I think it's going to be fast and furious as you see Bucky McMillan. And I love what he said pregame to his team. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Arguably the biggest crowd they've had at Pete Hanna Center in some time. And there's a lot at stake, but you got to play through the mistakes.
At Mountain Brook High School, not far from here, Bucky McMillan built a national power. Made the jump from the high school ranks to D1 basketball in a very good conference, the SoCon. Garrett Heen didn't play in the first matchup. Bothwell there to clean up the miss.
Well, Mike Bothwell, interesting. Here's a guy scored 1,900 career points. Hasn't scored particularly well the last couple games, but the Paladins have found ways to win. But boy, when he can get his average, 16, 17 points, they're tough.
Pretty feed inside. Logan Dye from A.J. Staten McRae.
And you see the Bulldogs jump into that full court pressure. They'll employ a lot of different defenses. They're not going to try to slow it up. Does that play into the Paladins' hands? Well, to some extent, as they're the leading scorer in the Southern Conference, averaging almost 82 a game.
They outscored their opponents by more than 11 a contest. Heen out front. And Marshall battles for the rebound. Bucky McMillan telling us before the game, Jermaine Marshall, Logan Dye, Quez Glover, this stage will not be too big for them. Staten McRae.
We've got a lot of, upperclassmen, guys that are experienced on this court. I mean, the 2 we highlighted, Slauson and Dye, both fifth-year guys. So is Mike Bothwell.
Slauson can't get it to go. Fifth-year senior from Summerville, South Carolina, had 26 points and 11 boards in the first matchup, one of his 8 double-doubles on the season. Bubba Parham giving to Dye. Dye working with a leg issue, but battling on. Ball movement. Parham, good outside shooter.
Bubba Parham, he simply knows how to score. He's a guy that can get it going. He's best off the ball, right? When they were without Quez Glover for those 11 games down the stretch of non-conference play and into the first part of conference play, he had to be the point guard. He and Jalen, really, and it was tougher on him to score.
That guy's one of the best three-point shooters for the Paladins, but not that time for Slauson. Bulldogs 48% beyond the arc over their last 3 games. Furman coming in, defending at 35% on three-pointers. Marshall, he can step out. And rebound from Marcus Foster.
This game is not for the faint of heart. You've got to be tough. You may need 3 lungs. There's going to be some guys play a lot of minutes in a fast-paced game.
J.P. Pegues really has come on as their point guard this year. Heen backing in on Marshall. And the whistle, and the foul is called.
Kind of the game within the game. Interesting when they're going to double, when they're going to not. Watch Dye right here. The double comes from Foster on the backside, and then really good ball movement. Parham is able to knock it down, and then you see Bucky now. He's going to call the defenses. They're going to continue to change throughout the game.
Bucky McMillan, amazing run as a high school head coach. 332 wins over 12 seasons. Numerous times his team either played for or won the state championship in Alabama at Mountain Brook. The job he has done taking over in the COVID year of 2021, but the last 2 seasons have been phenomenal. And an offensive foul will be called. That'll be the first on Logan Dye. Bob Ritchie, he was elevated a head coach at Furman in the middle of the last decade, and all he's done is put together quite the resume.
two outstanding, and for the most part, young coaches. Look at that record right there, a gaudy 72% winning percentage for Bob Ritchie. You talked about it. Niko Medved, he assisted him. They got this thing going, and he has taken it to another level here over the last 5-6 years.
Bucky McMillan, you see him at the bottom of your screen with something to say. Shot clock under 15. That'll be a quick number 2 on Marshall as he caught Marcus Foster in the face. Bob Ritchie, the Furman head coach, currently 14th among active coaches in winning percentage. Bucky McMillan simply described at this moment as hot. Definition of madness in the month of March. The finish from last year's SoCon tournament. Definitely worth a watch. Presented by Principal.
David Jean-Baptiste for the Chattanooga Mocs. Just inside half court. And the celebration was on for the Mocs. And then the agony of defeat for the Furman Paladins. And Pete, I think that's really one of the reasons why Bothwell and Slauson came back, to try to get these Paladins back to the NCAA tournament where they haven't been since 1980.
Bob Ritchie trying to knock down that wall for about 3 seconds while that ball was in the air on the shot by David Jean-Baptiste last year. Paladins thought they were headed to the big dance. Just into the game, Alex Williams, the sophomore, is helping the bunch. A.J. Staten-McCray simply didn't see it coming, and Furman will keep in their end with just 7 on the shot clock.
Something to watch. Logan Dye with a foul. Jermaine Marshall is on the bench with 2 fouls. If I'm Furman, I go at Dye. Try to put your opponent's 2 best post players on the bench here in the first half.
From the corner, Pegues. Battle inside. They'll get Williams coming over the back. Nathan Johnson's been a very interesting addition to this Samford team, a UMBC transfer. His stats wouldn't necessarily wow you, but he just gives them quality minutes, and in basketball you've got the plus-minus, and he's been very positive in that regard.
Totally agree. He started 11 SoCon games, now kind of that 6th, 7th man off the bench. You're exactly right. He's been a valuable addition to this Bulldogs team. Those that follow the SoCon will know Keandre Kennedy with UNCG, also a UMBC transfer.
Glover out front. Defended well by Pegues. A couple of teams that average about 80 points a game. They've combined for 7 over roughly our first 5 minutes because they play good defense.
Well, the ball hasn't gone in for either team at the clip they want, but they continue to play fast.
Paladins had missed 6 of their first 7 shots, but Bothwell brings them within a point.
That's what you got to do. Go back door when you're overplayed. Nice job by Bothwell.
Dye trying to toss it over the reach of Slauson. Give us our keys to the game, Dean, and you can break this matchup down so many ways.
Well, for Furman, make plays when the play breaks down. Due to the style Samford employs, the Paladins need to make plays when things get hectic. They've got to limit turnovers and have some ball security. For Samford, you've got to get back against Furman. And you got to act like you've been there. Can the Bulldogs perform in this environment with what's at stake? They've never been here.
Slauson and Bothwell, the savvy seniors out high. It's knocked away. A chore. Jaron Reilly on the drive. And Slauson says, really touched it last. And that's the case.
Outstanding defense. Transition by Slauson. Watch him. He runs back, finishes it, and then that ball just caroms off of Reilly's head.
Second in the SoCon in blocks per game. Jalen Slauson picking up his 48th of the season. Bothwell. Samford doesn't want him to start feeling it. Scored just 9 in each of the past 2 games, averaging nearly 18 a contest. 5 straight for him.
And that's what he's got to do. He's got to make a couple of threes to keep the defense honest. Now, that was in transition, but if he can get his confidence and make those, it opens up everything for him. He comes really hard to guard.
A while since Bubba Parham with the ball now hit the 3 for Samford. Bothwell whistled for his first person. Mike Bothwell from beyond the arc, 33%.
Well, they were able to inbound it to Slauson. 2 dribbles. He finds his longtime teammate Mike Bothwell on the wing, and you see how fired up Bothwell is. He's an unselfish kid, but he knows he's got to get going just a little bit. He's the leading scorer in the SoCon, but just 24 points in the last 3 games, all single digits.
And the Paladins going 2-1 in those, but they'd be the first to tell you struggling to win the most recent 2 earlier this week against ETSU and then Mercer.
Both teams were able to slow it down as much as any because that's the style they employ. Mercer and ETSU certainly don't play at play at the pace of this Samford Bulldog team.
Another turnover by the Samford Bulldogs, and that'll be the 5th against them in the early going. 7 points for the Paladins so far by this guy, Bothwell. How about some more? Bob Ritchie said before the game, one of the reasons Mike hasn't scored that much recent contests, got to start taking some shots, especially from long range. I think he got the message.
He just looked over at the bench and had that look of, you know what, this is going to be my night tonight.
Aiden Campbell just into the game, top of your screen, number 2, an outside scorer for the Bulldogs. Hesitation by Parham, defended by Witt. Campbell, junior college transfer. Nice step back.
An outstanding individual move right there by Campbell. He's best when Glover and Parham are both on the court.
Home folks wanted to travel. Bothwell wants to continue to be fed.
If you have not seen Mike Bothwell, you're in for a treat when he gets it going. He's as good a perimeter player that there is in the Southern Conference.
Parham from way downtown. Tyrese Huey's strong rebound inside. Sophomore they pressed into duty a year ago, a little bit more than they wanted to. So far it's Mike Bothwell against the world. All 13 points for him. All 16. 6 of 6 beyond the arc. What do they say about big game players in big games?
He's feeling it. I think the scouting report was go under screens until he proves himself. But McMillan's got a decision to make now defensively.
He had 17 in the first meeting. Lead is out to 9 for visiting Furman. Trying to win for a 6th time in their last 7 games here at the Pete Hanna Center, just outside of Birmingham, Alabama. Not that time for Campbell. Another rebound for Hewitt.
And if you're the Paladins, you got to find a screen for Bothwell. I would give him an opportunity for a heat check shot, if you will.
He did get the whistle. Foul called on Bubba Parham. Got a timeout on the court. Mike Bothwell. Someone told him that there was a #1 seed in the SoCon tourney on the line.
And you know what? The guy showed up. There's a reason he scored 1,900 career points. It's Furman early in Birmingham.
Presented by Principal. Hot start so far for a guy named Mike Bothwell. The Furman Paladins here at the Pete Hanna Center, home of the Samford Bulldogs, just south of Birmingham, Alabama. On the line, the #1 seed in the Southern Conference tournament. It gets going for the men on Friday. Quarterfinals Saturday. If you're in the Asheville, North Carolina region or anywhere within a short drive or further, come on down. What a great event that is. Mike Bothwell scored 17 points in the first meeting. An overtime win back in January by Furman on their home court. Give him 17 so far today. In fact, what a line he has put together.
6 of 6 from the floor. Now 17 points with that free throw. Hasn't missed on the floor. He's 4 of 4 behind the three-point arc. Think about this. He had made 6 of his last 22 from behind the line in his last 7 games, and now 4 of 4. Boy, the big ones show up when the lights are brightest.
Gets to roll 2 of 3 for a guy shooting 84% as Parham fouled him beyond the arc. Bob Ritchie gives him a breather. Bob Ritchie likes so much about this team. And keep in mind, their ball club a year ago was really good. Almost won the league championship. Finished with 22 wins. They've already banked 23 in the win column. They are on a mission, but he likes this team even more this season, especially on the offensive end. We'll talk more about it. Quez Glover and Samford trying to get it going. And he'll go to the line with an and-one. Foul by Pegues.
Well, there's been a couple of outstanding individual one-on-one moves by the Bulldogs. It was Campbell a couple possessions ago, and this time Glover. Boy, he gets Pegues going and just puts him in a situation where his feet get tangled up. Watch, step back, and then there was contact. He makes the shot. I'm not sure that the Bulldogs can rely on just one-on-one moves all night. They're going to have to get some turnovers, some fast break points, and rely on just total team basketball.
However, if Samford has a guy who can reel off 18 straight points, it's probably Quez Glover.
Agreed.
Carter Witt, a Wake Forest transfer. Heen able to corral. Had the size advantage on really who defended. Shot clock at 10 for Geese. minus Mike Bothwell, Furman is 0 for 7 from the field.
They don't have anybody on the floor right now who has scored, right? So who do you turn to? Bob Ritchie comes back with Marcus Foster and Jalen Slauson. But I think, you know, you were talking earlier about how Bob Ritchie likes this team. But one of the reasons, too, is the bench and their improvement. It's really been Carter Witt, Tyrese Huey, Ben Vanderwall, and Alex Williams. 4 guys that really kind of keep the flow going.
Johnson goes around Slauson and gives it up. Foster coming away with it. 6 turnovers so far for the Bulldogs. They came into the ball game averaging about 13 a contest. They tend to play at a somewhat frenetic pace. Dye defending Slauson. Tough matchup for anybody. On the wing with. And Dye with the rebound. Logan Dye coming in. A little over 5 rebounds a contest, but right up there in team leadership in most categories. Glover. Pegues goes under him. Pegues didn't want to pick up a second foul. Quez Glover. And at midcourt, Bucky McMillan and everyone wearing red in this building wanted an offensive foul called. Witt drives inside. And the whistle goes against Samford.
Bucky McMillan, he looked like he was in a high-speed Pilates class right there, the way he was waving his arm. Logan Dye doesn't like the call. Watch it here again. Witt with the drive. He did come into contact with Witt on the drive. That's now 2 on Logan Dye.
Logan Dye just called his teammate Quez Glover over as well. First miss by Witt. Tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern, get ready for more hardwood action. The top 44 pro women ballers face off in a high-stakes bucket-dropping battle where they call the shots. Don't miss the return of Athletes Unlimited Basketball on CBS Sports Network. Witt 1 of 2 from the line. Bucky McMillan, we saw his pregame speech. I don't know if Logan Dye gave one, but it would have had probably win one for the Gipper status. He wants to close out the regular season in his final home games, unless they end up playing here in postseason play. But he wants to get a win, get that #1 seed, and outduel fellow veterans on the other side. He's seen a bunch of Slauson and Bothwell over the years.
He is one of the main reasons why this program has gone from, you know, a 500 team to now battling for a conference championship.
Don't forget, Bothwell's really good defensively, but that time lowering the shoulder, picking up the personal. Now he has 2.
And you got a decision to make if you're Bob Ritchie. Again, you got 19 points. This guy right here just picked up a foul. Nice job by Bubba Parham defensively after that turnover. Clearly, Bothwell dipping the shoulder. And he's got enough confidence, Bob Ritchie, to keep that 5th-year guy in there.
A.J. Staten McCray. You say Jermaine Marshall, who picked up a couple of personal fouls early, is the X factor for Samford as a reach-in foul is called, and it's against Quez Glover. And that'll be #1 on the Knoxville, Tennessee native. I think A.J. Staten McCray is a guy that Bucky McMillan relies on a lot. His most versatile defender at 6'5", and he'll sneak up on you, and before you know it, have a good game. Staten McCray had 16 in the first meeting.
Agree. He's not unlike Marcus Foster for Furman. These 2 guys, they can guard multiple positions. They play really with great energy, and they're skilled at the offensive end.
10 combined fouls already. There were 46 combined in the first matchup. Foster from downtown. He hit a huge 3 in overtime in Furman's win against Samford in January. Gets his team back up by 8. Paladins led by as many as 11. Staten McCray out front. Over the reach of Slauson, which is tough, but Chore unable to save it to a teammate. Pegues pushing the pace, goes around Parham, fakes to his right. What a nice finish.
So a terrific pass fake with the dribble in tow, froze the Bulldog defense, and then he had a wide open look. Well, you got to love everything about J.P. Pegues and how he's just continued to develop and evolve into an all-conference kind of player.
Glover crossing over, and a foul is called.
Well, when you have this kind of pace, you're going to have these kind of fouls. Both teams want to play fast. They want to attack the basket. Watch this right here. This is thrown inside. The double team comes. And then great ball reversal, which leads to Foster having feet set, shot up, basket in.
Bob Ritchie, a couple of 25-win seasons to his credit.
Furman does such a great job of spreading the floor, creating great spacing. Then their go-to guy a lot of times is the open man. They lead the Southern Conference in assists per game. In fact, they're nationally ranked. See right there, they're fourth in the country. And some really good teams, all of those at the top of their conference, the Big East, the Pac-12, and the Patriot. They assist on over 62% of their made shots.
And they came in top 10 in the country in assist-to-turnover ratio. So a team that shares, a team that's efficient. They move the ball here. Foster hitting the deck. Achor, and another offensive foul called against the Paladins. This one on Marcus Foster, an emerging star in their program, fourth-year junior out of Atlanta. They actually were able to redshirt him and some others earlier in their careers. And the word redshirt in basketball, you don't hear it all that often. Here's a look at the foul.
Watch it here. Achor gets to the baseline, and then the left arm of Marcus Foster causes the push-off and the offensive foul.
You saw him grab his left knee, but he remains out there. But Furman, a team where patience is a virtue. Here's a drive inside, and A.J. Staten-McRae. Told you double-figure scoring in the first game with 16. He's hit some big buckets here to trim the Paladins' lead back down to 6.
He was on the all-freshman team 2 years ago and then got injured and only played 3 games last year. Now you see a little bit of zone by Samford.
Bothwell, a rare miss in this game for him. Gets it back from his teammate Slauson. And an offensive foul is called. Let's see if they count the basket.
That is a huge call as we go to the under 8. Mike Bothwell, he's at 18 points. He has been the offense for the Paladins, but on the drive, the made basket, it's waved off. That's his third huge call. We got a good one here at Samford.
I title him Mr. Birmingham Basketball. Bucky McMillan, head coach of Samford, guiding this Bulldogs team in his third season. What a job he has done. From Mountain Brook High as a player to Birmingham Southern, then back to Mountain Brook as an assistant, then an ultra-successful head coach, and here he is in the third year of his college job with a second straight 20-win season.
He certainly knows how to win. 5 state titles at the highest level classification in Alabama, and that's in 12 seasons. He certainly was the right guy at the right time, and Martin Newton, son of C.M. Newton, well entrenched in basketball with Nike. He was on John Calipari's staff. He's the director of athletics here at Samford. He knew that Bucky McMillan could get this thing going.
Glover saw the door was open. After the offensive foul on Bothwell, as you noted, Dean, his third, so we probably don't see him to the second half. What do you do for the Paladins? It's been the Bothwell show so far.
Who do you turn to? Jalen Slauson is one obvious thought. J.P. Pegues, also a guy that can create his own.
Ben Vanderwall, a freshman. Chance for a 4-point play. Maybe youth will be served as Vanderwall has given him some good minutes so far this season.
A cardinal sin in basketball, fouling the 3-point shooter, and then you compound that, the shot goes in. Watch Pegues. He drives, he draws, and then he kicks to Vanderwall. Nice job setting up. He had Achor kind of coming to help, and then he was too late. I like Vanderwall, another one of the just a solid freshman. I think he's one of the best 5 freshmen in the Southern Conference. Jackson Pavletsky, I don't think there's any question he'll be the freshman of the year, but Vanderwall has really kind of entrenched himself into this 8 or 9 man rotation for the Paladins.
Glover looking to take over. Slauson all over him. It would have been an 8-point lead, but they waved off the Bothwell basket on the foul, but the 4-point play as Furman back up by 8. Although Glover a chance to cut into that. Slauson picking up the personal foul. First for him. Paladins have led by as many as 11. In their overtime win in Greenville, they had an early lead on the Bulldogs. Samford then came back and built a 3-possession lead in the second half. Furman was playing catch-up on its home court down the stretch in that game. This Glover, excellent in so many areas, including free throws, 85%. And then Slauson, a late 3 to tie it for us. Overtime, Parham missed the buzzer in regulation. Furman was able to eventually go on to the 7-point win, 91-84. Glover gets his team a little bit closer. He's catching up in the scoring column to Bothwell. He's in double figures with 11.
The Samford team can score in bunches, and so you'll see some swings both ways.
Pegues forcing it. Williams out high off the deflection. Vanderwall back to Pegues. J.P. Pegues. So many things have gone well for him this year. He's 35% beyond the arc. He had 15 points in the first game. Glover, meanwhile, we told you he can score in spurts. He's got 13. Foster ahead of the pack without numbers.
And big answer. In the blink of an eye, you cannot celebrate after a made basket when you're playing against either of these teams.
How about Glover in traffic?
Well, it's entertaining, but you know, both coaches would tell you as much as they want to score, it's going to come down to who can defend here to win this game. You simply can't allow these kind of easy baskets in transition, particularly after made baskets.
From the wing, Foster can't get it to go. Staten McCray defending, and here comes Parham in the front court. Bubba Parham back on the floor with a 3 early on. Glover scored 10 of the past 12 points. Johnson, no. Chore battling with Slauson. The Paladins come away with it.
Both teams doubling in the post, but not until the offensive player puts it on the floor.
Jalen Slauson out high. Pegues pump fake around to Chore. J.P. Pegues is feeling it.
Oh, he shuffled his feet right there to gather himself. The travel wasn't called. And now Pegues kind of has become the offensive go-to guy for the Paladins, with Bothwell on the bench with 3 fouls.
8 for the sophomore out of Nashville for Furman, J.P. Pegues. Chore setting the screen for Glover. Sizing things up. Began his career at Florida. Arrived with Marshall for Samford last season. Vanderwall defending. Staten McCray to beat the shot clock.
Boy, used his length and athleticism and put just enough English on it where it ricocheted off the basket. Nice individual move right there with the shot clock under 5.
Staten McCray 6 points for the Samford team. Slauson with the Chore defending. And the steal by Staten McCray. Slauson trails. Parham couldn't follow. And Slauson comes away with it.
Slauson's got to be careful. He's got a foul. He can ill afford to pick up 2.
Pegues inside. Slauson finishing. Give J.P. Pegues another assist, averaging 4 a game. Bucky McMillan calling a timeout. Furman has again built the lead. Back out to 10. Samford had crept a little bit closer.
That was Slauson's first basket. Let's see if he can get going in the last 4.5. He got 15 of the Bulldogs' 28, although they trail by 10.
And with Dean Keener, Pete Hannity with you back in Homewood, Alabama, just outside of Birmingham. Quez Glover, 15 points in the first meeting. It was just his second game back. He missed a good stretch of the season with an injury between late November and mid-January in what has been a roller coaster ride at times for the Samford Bulldogs. They've got to be the only team in the country, Dean, with winning streaks of 6, 7, and currently 8 games, but they also lost 7 in a row.
Well, and part of that was injuries, right? They came out of the gate, won their first 6, and when Glover and Jaden Campbell went down to injury, they did lose 7 in a row. Bucky McMillan will tell you it helped the team because they learned how to win without Quez Glover, and now they're better for it.
You'll see Mr. Glover go back to the line.
He's a guy that he was the leading returning scorer in the Southern Conference. He was over 19 a game last year, currently at 14.8.
Foster picking up his second. He's a vital piece of the puzzle for Furman. Glover. Told you he's 85% from the line. Get ready for a star-studded showdown as historically black colleges and universities team up with CBS Sports for the 2nd annual HBCU All-Star Game. Lots of best from around the nation. Compete live from Houston, Sunday, April 2nd at 4 Eastern on CBS and streaming live on Paramount+. Glover continues his big game, near 20 in the opening half. However, Samford looking up at a 9-point deficit. They trailed by as many as 11. Inside feed. Sophomore to freshman. Tyree Shuey finding Vanderwall. He's been big off the bench.
He certainly has. Two great plays right there. Huey with the pass from up top. That's where you can be your most effective offensively against that 2-3 zone. And then the back cut by Vanderwall.
Largest lead for the Paladins at 12. Campbell forcing inside. Tough place to go against Furman, a very good defensive team.
Transition defense been a bit better by the Bulldogs. Now they've got to be solid in the half court, whether it's man or zone.
Huey the screen for Witt. Kick on the wing, Williams. Alex Williams really came alive back early in the SoCon season. And then the sophomore comes from Xenia, Ohio. It's been a big plus off the bench.
He's really been good in Southern Conference play. I would argue that behind Mikael Brown-Jones, he's the 6th man of the year in the Southern Conference.
Dye tried to get his own rebound. And back over to Furman it goes.
Three-pointers are the difference in this game here, both ways. Watch the drive again by Witt. He finds teammate Alex Williams outside the arc. Half of Williams' shots on the season are behind the arc. He's a big-bodied guy, but don't mistake that for his ability to really knock down threes at a high clip.
Dean, you tell a coach his team has 10 assists on 15 field goals, his eyes will light up. Bob Ritchie has to be happy with that stat.
Well, that's really part of what Furman does best. We talked about it, average 18 assists a game, 4th in the nation. They shear the rock.
Boy, they pass inside so well. Heen, though, unable to get it to go. Staten McCray and Samford trying to make a run before the break. A chore. Quick move on Huey. Extended minutes for the Furman bench because some of their key players nursing foul trouble. Jermaine Marshall back in the court. He picked up 2 quickly for Samford. Parham. McGee's defense. Shot clock under 10. Marshall with a hand in his face of Williams. Gets his own rebound. Off the spin. Slauson again defending well. That time it's off his body. Jalen Slauson, such a tough guy to try to go up and over.
He's the reigning defensive player of the year in the league. Make another case for it this season. He is just, boy, he's a guy that, not unlike other players, have just gotten better every single year. And you're seeing it with Pegues. You're seeing it with Alex Williams and with Jalen Slauson, even Mike Bothwell. The Slauson, 19 points in total in his freshman year, and now arguably could be the player of the year when it's announced later this week.
Achor turns it over. So Achor giving it up for Samford. That is 9 in the opening half, but it goes back to what we talked about earlier, to your point about the development of the players at Furman, to the patience and the really interesting and somewhat uncommon in D1 basketball process they have.
Bob Ritchie calls it work while you wait. Marcus Foster, another one.
Oh, the ball movement, and Slauson the throwdown.
Well, they have figured out this Samford zone. They've attacked the middle either by dribble or pass, and they have seen layups and dunks. A critical minute and a half here for the Bulldogs. They need to try to shrink this lead just a little bit.
16-point lead on the road for Furman. Statement time. Part of the season. Staten McCray, offensive rebound. Didn't realize how quickly he could go back up with it.
Well, and Slauson didn't want to challenge with 1 foul. He knows teammate Bothwell's got 2 and 3, and Foster's got 2.
8 points for A.J. Staten McCray, coming up on a minute to go before the break. Been an entertaining first half and a physical first half. This ball game between these two was quite physical. Jalen Slauson, we told you, at 26 in that opening game. Hadn't heard much of him offensively, but there he is with another bucket inside. He's got 6.
Athletic, high motor, skilled. Not much he can't do in this league.
Rainbow from Parham, his 3-pointer. Adding to his total, he had a 3 earlier. You'll see the difference. Shot clock to game clock. Parham defending Pegues out high.
This one, Pegues to try to create. He settles, and you know what? Let the man settle. He's making threes.
just under 60% beyond the arc in the opening half. 10 of 17. Bulldogs play for a final shot. Closing seconds of the opening half. Achor could not get rid of it in time. Huey knocked it away, and right there in a capsule, that defines what we just witnessed over the first 20 minutes of this game. Mike Bothwell had the hot hand, the sizzling hot hand. Early in this contest, his teammates then followed for a Furman team that's 22-2 when leading at the break. Samford just 1-6 when they trail.
It has been Furman, boy, in a fast-paced game. This is right to their liking. When they knock down threes, boy, they are really, really hard to beat. 50-34, Furman.
Take a look at the game summary brought to you by AT&T 5G.
Again, we talked about it. Samford's got to tighten up the defense. You know they can score, but you can't let the Paladins shoot 60%, 58 behind the arc. And those assists, right? The 11 on 18 made field goals suggest Furman is sharing it. Not so much, just 3 assists, too much one-on-one ball by Samford.
Samford 8-0 in home Southern Conference games, and you can say they've been here before. Early in January, they trailed by nearly 20 in the early going in the second half against Chattanooga. Rallied for a win after facing a much tougher opponent in the Furman Paladins. Logan Dye. I think they're going to say he was in the act of shooting. Off the steal. Dye sitting for a good part of the opening half. We noted he's been nursing a bit of a leg injury. Take a look at his defense.
Nice defense right here. He reads the eyes of the passer. And then the foul by Slauson, his second. Not a major concern if you're Bob Ritchie, but again, because Bothwell's got 3, you're really going to have to manage in the second half foul situations. You know, back to your point about Samford, have they been in a big game like this? Well, maybe not for what's at stake, but yes, they were down 19 with just under 15 minutes to go against Chattanooga, middle of January, and came back, and that was with Jake Stevens was healthy for the Mocs.
Stevens, great post player, first at VMI, now at Chattanooga. 1 out of 2 for Dye, just 3 points so far for the 5th-year senior. He had 19 in the first regular season meeting between the Paladins and the Samford Bulldogs. Bothwell with those 3 fouls, but a near 20-point game so far. Gave it away to Batiste. Garrett Heen. Shot clock under 10. Slauson. Shot clock winding down further. And the beat goes on from one half to the other from long range.
That's so deflating if you're Samford. You play good defense for 28 seconds. Batiste just steps up and nails it. What a dagger right there.
Back out to a 19-point lead. Marshall inside. Pump fake over Slauson.
He was trying to get contact to get that 3rd foul on Slauson.
First bucket in the game for Jermaine Marshall. They will need more from him. He was limited to 8 in the previous contest, but he is a guy who's really picked up the scoring as SoCon play has continued. Comes off a 25-point night on Wednesday in Chattanooga.
He's picked up his offensive game in Southern Conference play. Both he and Logan Dye, they combined for just 2 points in a combined 16 minutes of action in the first half. Bucky McMillan's going to need much more than that. Needs those guys along with Bubba Parham and Quez Glover to stay on the floor if they're going to make this comeback. Watch Parham right there. I don't know if you've ever seen a player agree that they fouled, but what he didn't do was he didn't extend that left leg out on the defensive slide.
2 on Parham. Bothwell. All working for the native of just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. 20-point game for him. Marshall. Big answer.
And that's what he can do. I mean, most of his work is done inside, but he's, after going 25% behind arc in non-conference play, as I said, he's now 44% in conference play.
Slauson missing from long range. Glover and the Bulldogs. He can play with pace. Missing the dribble, it went to Dye. Heen defends. Dye. Back to the free throw line.
Now the double team never came, and Dye recognized that he was one-on-one with Heen in there. Watch Marshall screen and then steps back. He's got the option to screen and roll to the basket. He read the defense and just stepped back, and that's where he's been really good.
Logan Dye playing in his 125th game at Samford, closing in on a record. Jermaine Marshall, a guy we told you he's bumped up the scoring during conference play.
And those are significant numbers, particularly behind the arc. Another rebound per game. He's a guy, he had 11 double-doubles last year. He's got 4 this year, but they're more balanced. And they're a better team than they were last year, even though they won 20 games.
3 straight misses from the free throw line for Dye. Knocked away. A.J. Staten-McRae getting in front court. Marshall in transition. Leaves it short. He does love to shoot the transition 3. Bothwell, head of steam with Glover defending.
Nice job right there by Marshall, reading the defense again.
Second on his team in steals. Maybe first in excitement, at least that time.
He impacts winning because of his motor. Look, and I mean this very respectfully, he's got Dennis Rodman intangibles to him. I mean, he's just a guy that goes about it in a blue-collar fashion.
Came home to his home state of Alabama to continue his college career, the Akron transfer. Slauson with Marshall defending, and remember those 2 fouls. At that time, he got him to flick it off the side of the backboard. It was a 17-point Furman lead at the break. They've been up by as many as 20 here in the second half. Glover. Bob Ritchie is not one to often use a timeout as play continues. He's starting to feel the building shake around him, if you will. Bulldogs have closed within 11.
Well, the defense is tightened up by the Bulldogs, and they've turned the defense quickly into some offense. The interception by Marshall, he knows how to finish, even if he needs to use the rim. They can also do it behind the arc. Glover.
Winner of our game gets the #1 seed in the upcoming Southern Conference tournament. For the men, that begins on Friday in Asheville, North Carolina. UNCG plays later on at ETSU. They're obviously keeping an eye on this game. Just one other conference ball game underway at this time. Besides this one, Mercer has a big lead on the Citadel, trying to sweep that regular season series. The bottom 4 teams will have to play on Friday. They would then have to win 4 games in 4 days to claim a SoCon crown. As for Samford and Furman, you say, well, being the #1 seed, #2 or 3 seed, what's the difference? However, you do want to keep in mind, you'd rather probably play, if you can get out a quarterfinal Saturday, you'd probably rather play the 4 seed instead of have to go in a 2-3 game in round number, in the Sunday semifinal game.
Absolutely. And I know you don't think about this right now, but the winner, the 1st seed, is guaranteed an NIT bid. So you're going to play postseason. Now, ultimately, boy, everybody's playing for that NCAA tournament bid on Monday in Asheville.
Paladins have seen Samford go on an 8-0 run, cutting into the largest Furman lead. Furman actually is led by 19 in the second half. I may have said 20, but quick change of points earlier. Pegues, Parham defending. Heen out front. Garrett Heen. He's part of the 3-point party. That's his first. He's 1 of 2. A 12th made in 20 attempts.
That's 2 daggers as the shot clock's going down here in the second half. Pegues hit one, and now Heen. You can't let that affect your psyche, though, defensively if you're Samford.
Logan Dye. One of the areas he's improved is off the dribble as his career has continued here at Samford. Foul called against Furman. Logan Dye and the Bulldogs trying to come back on the Furman Paladins. Paladins had their hearts broken in Asheville a year ago. They're trying to go there this time with a #1 seed. Here at Samford, Bulldogs were down by nearly 20 earlier in this half. They crept within 11, but Furman continues to use the long-range Bob. Big weapon for them, the 3-pointer. Came in as a 35% 3-point shooting team. Bob Ritchie says his ball club really hasn't had to rely on it as much this season. But you'd sure like to have it in your back pocket in big games like this. Logan Dye has missed his past 3 free throws. Pretty good shooter for a big man. And he ends that skid.
Nice job by Dye there. You're right, it can kind of get in your head. You miss a couple of free throws. But back to your point about Bob Ritchie and threes. Boy, they have knocked it down today, but they are capable. They can put 5 guys on the floor.
Marshall, no, but he'll head to the line, and a little bit of a stumble or two right after.
Who are they going to call this on? This time on Huey. Just great effort, just individual effort by Jermaine Marshall, coming off 25 and 8 performance on Wednesday. Look, he just beats Bothwell one-on-one right there. Doesn't get the basket, but gets the foul and an opportunity for 2 points.
Marshall showed you his skills on the glass, leads this team with just over 60 games. On the top 10 in the SoCon. And his collegiate days as a junior college player in Florida. He's played at Akron in the Mid-American Conference. Came from that program guided by a really fine coach, John Gross. Tooled to play defense, says Bucky McMillan. Yep. And he's added the offense this year. Second year in this Samford program.
John, an outstanding coach and doing a great job at the University of Akron. Has the Zips up at the top of the MAC along with Kent State.
8 free throw attempts in the second half for the Bulldogs. Attempted 7 free throws in the first. A very physical game. You get the impression the free throw line is going to become part of the story. Paladins, and for that matter, Bulldogs, have had some foul issues going good ways back into the first half. Mike Bothwell, 3. He is on the floor at the bottom of your screen. Has the ball. Is the zone we're seeing out of Samford?
It was. And they have, and we know it, they have changed their defenses throughout the game. We saw some full court pressure, and we've seen some 2-3 matchup.
I bring that up because in the first meeting when Samford trailed, Bucky McMillan went to a zone. I think they were down by as many as 12, and suddenly the script flipping, and they were able to get things going using zone. I asked Bob Ritchie about that after that game. He said he's not sure that was necessarily why things changed in that game, but he did acknowledge that his team had to really deal with things. Boy, Mike Bothwell having himself some kind of game. In case you're wondering, he got his career high of 36 points earlier in the season, but that's not out of the realm of possibility today. Off the miss, Big East, the speed, the step through.
That was just a whole different level right there by Pegues. He left the Samford defense just in their feet.
Glover had some big answers in the opening half. Can't get it to roll that time. I thought the matchup when they played in January was a very high-level game. And this one has the potential to go even higher level than that one, I think. I think Samford's going away on the home floor, but they better start defending out beyond the arc better than they have.
Their defense was good for the first 4 or 5 minutes out of the gate here. It's failed them a couple of times right now.
Williams. Really good recovery by Marshall defensively before they kicked it in the corner. Else Furman would have a bunny inside. Marshall corrals. Dive. Battling inside Glover. Marshall. And he's fouled.
Outstanding effort by Glover. I don't know that he'll get credit for a rebound, but he saved that possession, recycled it to give Marshall another opportunity. Can't say enough about the energy that Jermaine Marshall plays with and how it helps his team in so many ways.
Bothwell, or was it? Initially, it looked like it was going to be on Bothwell.
That was on Vanderwall.
So Vanderwall picking up. And Marshall gets the free throw.
And you talk about now or never. Boy, Samford's got to pick it up a little bit. But yes, they have the ability to spurt, go on 6-0, 8-0 runs. And their defense has been solid. You forget there were 2 possessions where early in the half, J.P. Pegues knocked down a 3, and then Garrett Heen had one, both when the shot clocks were running down. You can't let that discourage you.
Well, Pegues go to the bench with 16 points.
Marshall has been really good here in the second half.
11 points for him coming since halftime.
And now Samford extending that man-to-man defense. You just got to be solid. Just don't give up straight line drives. Make the Paladins shoot over you.
Bothwell on Staten McRae. Couldn't get it to roll that time, but there's Vanderwall. Freshman has really grown up in a hurry. Williams. Slauson battling inside around red jersey. Set up again. Carter Witt, this program this season from Wake Forest. Furman doesn't take all that many transfers. They're very strategic, though, in guys they bring in. They've been very effective with very few transfers, but they've all seemed to work. Bothwell. Witt scrapping for the offensive rebound. Another try for Bothwell. And he leaves it short, but once again, the offensive glass. Paladins coming into this game out-rebounding opponents overall by better than 3 a game.
But those long rebounds after the 3 have allowed Furman to take almost a minute off the clock right here.
With a 13-point lead, adding on. Mike Bothwell, the big smile. How about that possession? Couple of offensive rebounds and 3 in the half.
3 offensive rebounds leads to a 3 as the shot clock is at 3 for Mike Bothwell. He had to take it with the clock running down, but he's got the confidence even after missing the first 2 threes. Watch it right here. He just dribbles into some space. A chore, doesn't get his arms up. He points at the entire team to say thanks for recycling a couple times to give me another opportunity. 3rd time's the charm.
25 points so far for Cleveland Heights, Ohio native. And Vanderwall just picked up his 2nd personal for Furman. That's their 6th as a team. She just 1 for Samford here in the 2nd half. So we told you, free throws could become a factor. And in terms of Samford trying to get back in the game, Glover would prefer to get a few from the field as well.
Well, he can score the same clip that Mike Bothwell can, but yet, well, you don't want to trade baskets right here. Bothwell, a guy we saw earlier in the season, get 36 on Stephen F. Austin.
Glover has 21, coming away with it. 3-on-1. Dive, up, and under.
Wow. What a terrific offensive move by Dye, and then the steal that keeps this going. Most importantly, keeps the crowd into it. And that becomes a 6th man when these Bulldogs want to press full court.
Staten McCray called for the bump. That'll be his first. Jermaine Marshall, as head coach tells us, tends to get more emotionally and mentally up for an opponent than any of his Samford teammates. We've seen that energy translating here in the 2nd half.
See the assist. He is an outstanding college player.
Great run continues this season for the Red Raiders from upstate New York. And again, dangerous team if they can get to the big dance. Paladins, a 10-point lead. Samford as close as they've been since just under the 5-minute mark of the opening half.
Both teams shooting it at a very high clip. Good for Samford offensively, but you got to tighten it up at the defensive end.
Foster on the reverse. Pass out to him by Slauson. Gives Slauson another assist. Oh, he's really good in that category, too. He's 6th in the conference. The answer. A guy who could be a factor off the bench, Jaden Campbell, here in the 2nd half.
Campbell known as a shooter, but just 27% behind the arc in SoCon play. Again, he's best when he's out there with Glover and Parham.
Another swing pass out high. Not that time. Foster, Bothwell. Couldn't finish the bucket, but a chance now coming up at the line.
Well, the Bulldogs just got caught ball watching on that shot. Nobody put a body on Bothwell. He had a free run to the rim. Watch the shot by Foster, and then Bothwell just, well, he's got an opportunity to put back. I'm not sure if that was because Glover went to try to help defend on that shot by Foster, but regardless, you put an outstanding free throw shooter at the line for the Paladins.
Bothwell, another free throw, 84% on the season. From the line today, he's 3 of 4. He's closing in on another 30-point game in his career. Earlier this season, we told you he had a career-high 36, and he was just sizzling at the well in downtown Greenville against Stephen F. Austin. Also on his 30-point ledger at Louisville early last season. And the Paladins got another one of their Power Conference victories. This is a growing basketball rivalry in this conference, and well, you'll see some fans showing up to express Their thoughts. Dye, another nice revert. Told you he's gotten so much better over the last couple of years off the dribble. And once again, a steal on an inbound, but Heen able to save the day as Campbell couldn't get it to go down.
Now, Dye has really worked to get his body in shape. He is a true all-conference center or power forward, if you will.
Campbell the deflection. Parham came away with it. Chance to get as close as they've been in a long time on this trip for Samford. Glover on the crossover. Works on Bothwell. Baseline. And good defense. Glover that almost got that one to go. Furman has 7 second-half turnovers. They were the efficient team in that category in the opening half.
Had just 5 in the first half in 20 minutes.
McGee's lost the handle, hit the bottom of the backboard, and make it 8 turnovers since the break.
And that last possession, boy, Dye was open outside the arc. He was calling for it. Maybe a little bit too much one-on-one basketball by Quez Glover. He's so good. He can get his own one-on-one, but Bucky McMillan will tell you when they share the ball like Furman, they can really score at a high clip.
Closing in on 50 wins, and this is 3rd season, but mind you, they only played about 25 games his first year because of the pandemic in 2021. Another opportunity to get it back to a single-point deficit. Glover behind a screen from Dye, but Heen there to defend. Glover inside. Dye couldn't pull it in. Coming away with it, Slauson. Slauson defended by Marshall. Couldn't get it to bank in off the glass, and Dye coming up with the rebound. You know, as I think about it, I think the leg issue we talked about with Logan Dye, we may have seen that occur about a month ago when they were playing at Wofford. He went for that rebound. He returned for the second half, but he's pretty much been nursing it since then.
Very well could have been.
Oh, what a nice pass. And the quick move to the bucket. Jermaine Marshall doing his best Mike Bothwell here in the second half. Bothwell scored the first 18 points for Furman in half number 1. And now a 15-point second half for Marshall. Slauson. Easy enough. Looked like they were running a practice drill. Heen with the slam. Back up by 10 go the Paladins.
You simply can't allow that. I mean, there's going to be some give and take when you're pressing. Can't let those straight line drives, though, lead to dunks.
You got guys who can hit them from long range on the floor right now. That time Marshall leaves it short. Good box out by Heen. 8.5 to go in regulation.
Both teams have made critical shots when the clock has been down, but they really want to be fast-paced and cutting to the basket like you see right there.
Textbook back cut right there. Foster will head to the line.
Saying time and time again, when you're overplayed, young players go back door. You see it right there, the hard cut by Foster. He cuts out, and then he V-cuts to the basket. Terrific job right there by Heen also. He recognizes that Campbell goes for that initial cut. Campbell unsure if Foster's going to receive the dribble handoff by Heen or if he's going to go back door, and the help wasn't there either.
Second on his team at 80% from the line. 4th-year junior. From Atlanta. High school ball and through charter. 11 points and 9 boards for Marcus Foster in the first meeting. Guy going to get a breather. And 2 for 2. Back out to a 12-point advantage for Furman. So Samford has kind of pushed the door open, gotten it a little bit ajar, and then Furman slams it right back in their face. Tries to try to get it under a 10-point deficit or a double-figure deficit.
They've done it more. Furman has more at the offensive end.
Quick move by Glover, no. A chore follow. The foul is called. Got a timeout on the court. Sorted out when we come back. Furman up by 12 and a huge one in the SoCon. Reaching new heights. It's brought to you by Warner Ladder. Mike Bothwell. Reaching and then some.
He was fantastic in the first half, but he's also picked it up here midway through the second half. It's mainly been behind the arc, but he's also found his way to the free throw line. Bothwell with 27 points. As you see him there, kind of getting last-minute instructions from head coach Bob Ritchie. 24 points in his last 3 games, and now 27 here and arguably the biggest game thus far for Samford this season.
When Mike Bothwell gets hot, he can really get hot. We told you the 36-point game earlier this season against Stephen F. Austin and a close Furman win, his career high. In that game, he was 12 of 14, 86% from the field. I mean, that's some kind of day.
You don't score 1,900 career points, now 1,927, without having the ability to do it in a variety of ways. But credit Bothwell, he has gotten better. He's more well-rounded this year than even last year, distributing more than ever, and yet his field goal percentage is up. So credit him for off-season work.
Chor came up playing soccer in his native Australia. Picked up basketball. Came to them from Chipola Junior College, really high-level junior college program. And his first year here, they think the ceiling very high for him. A lot of potential. Pretty much been the backup to die this year. Shows a good touch of the free throw line. Back to a 10-point game. Paladins led at the break by 17.
Well, if Samford is going to continue to press full court, and I think they will, they've got to make sure that their transition defense is good and they match up as well as possible. There's going to be some times where a guy like a Chor is going to be on Bothwell. Got to move your feet.
Foster goes up over Parham.
Well, and there's an example. You sprinted back, Samford did, and Parham at 5'11" on the bigger 6'4" and more athletic Foster. Double team didn't come in time to help, and now foul occurs, Foster at the line.
Third on Parham. He's so valuable to him on both ends of the floor, it would probably be hard for Bucky McMillan to take him out. Marcus Foster, great touch at the line. He's building on his scoring day. 7-11.
Pete, you talked about the first half, and you just simply can't talk about it enough. The work while you wait mantra that they have in Furman. Foster, a guy that redshirted, he's gotten better. So many times they've said, boy, we're going to lose a certain player. Alex Williams this past year, who's going to be our point guard? And McGeese has proven to be that guy, although Carter Witt, Joe Anderson had filled in bench roles very well.
Staten McCray past Foster. Huey the rebound.
That's a big miss to try to match those two free throws by Foster and keep this at a 10-point game.
Williams way outside. Out of bounds it goes. 7 minutes exactly remaining here in our second half. And you figure over the past 10 minutes on the game clock, Samford pretty much has gone toe-to-toe scoring with Furman, and it's gone back and forth essentially between a 10 and a 12-point Paladins lead. On a red-out day here at the Pete Hanna Center, students want to be going crazy as time goes on down the stretch. Guys on the floor trying to induce that. Glover, contact, whistle, and I believe blocking on the foul. Probably a 50-50 call, and Pegues will be charged with a second person.
I think you're right. Again, Glover with that one-on-one move. Watch this here again. Once you're even with the defender, you've got to beat. And that's what Glover did right there. He was able to freeze Pegues and get shoulder to shoulder with him. And then at that point, you can kind of do what you want.
Wes Glover from a really fine high school program, Knoxville Bearden, has produced its share of players over the years and currently college hoops.
Drew Pember will be the player of the year in the Big South. 6'11" transfer from Tennessee. You're exactly right, Pete. Boy, that Bearden program has produced multiple college players, not just at the Division I level.
Pember establishing the best scoring mark in a single game this year. We're going to see Asheville 48 points. I saw Glover a couple of days after that when we did the Wofford-Samford game, and he had just gotten off the phone with his friend, his former high school teammate. Marshall defending Foster. As you can tell, the home crowd wanted traveling call.
Nice job by Pegues to settle things down, get the Paladins set up.
Staten McCray. A Chor trails. Block at the bucket. Slauson. A Chor trying to knock it away will be called for the foul.
Boy, the defensive player of the year kind of erasing another turnover. Boy, it's got really tough in here. Watch this again. Pegues settles things out, and then it's a lazy pass. Staten McCray off to the races, but here comes Slauson. Boy, that is a bang-bang play. Great camera work right here. Does it hit the backboard? Because if it does, then it's goaltending. But, boy, that was close.
Looks like he got a hand on it to Slauson before it ever made contact with the backboard. I think so often instinctively we see that and we expect a whistle. And in that case, Slauson credited with the block. Bothwell off balance. Back to the free throw line for him. The other night, Paladins went through a long stretch, nearly 12 minutes without a field goal in their win against Mercer during the second half. That's because the Bears were fouling a bunch. Furman used free throws to eventually seal a win.
They are solid at the free throw line.
10 of 12 today.
Yeah, 74% as a team. And you know what? Most good teams are good from the line. Samford 75% as a team.
Bothwell continues to do good things. Parham, by the way, just picked up his 4th foul for Samford. Shore will get a breather, but Parham stays out there. He's the first Bulldog with 4. Garrett Heen for Furman over on the bench has 4 personal fouls. Mike Bothwell, 29 points.
Both teams can go 9 deep and really not miss a beat. And I think at this point, both coaches want to go with really the starters and the stars, if you will.
Cross-court pass, always dangerous against a team that's good at defending. Foster came away with it.
Foster had his head on a swivel. He was on the help side. Read that perfectly.
Had cleaned up the turnovers here in the second half. In the game now, they have 11. Furman's given it up 14 times. 5.5, just under that mark here in the second half. Missed by Pegues. Here comes Parham and the Samford Bulldog. Obviously, much on the line here, #1 seed. You wouldn't be stunned at a week from Monday in the evening in Asheville, North Carolina. It was Samford and Furman again. Glover, no. Marshall battling. And eventually deflected by Bothwell to his teammate Pegues.
Well said. And look, Furman won the first one in overtime. You know, what does that mean if you can beat a team twice? Do you have that advantage if you face them again? Is it hard to beat a team 3 times, particularly on a neutral floor? Who knows? First things first, though. Both teams trying to earn that #1 seed.
Foster. Dye followed. It still rolls in for him.
You give Dye an assist right there. He got a hand on it, but not enough to cause the miss.
Lead back to 14 points for the Paladins. Glover, contact. Staten McCray. Dye gets the rebound. Right back up with him. And Bucky McMillan calling the timeout. Back within 12 of the Bulldogs, but time not on their side. Just 4:25 remains in our second half. We set the table for this major battle in the Southern Conference between Furman and Samford. Paladins have been in control for most of the contest. We set the table with the keys to the game. Let's revisit those, and I'll see how things stand for Bucky McMillan and the Bulldogs compared to Furman and Bob Ritchie.
We talked about Furman having to limit turnovers. They really had great ball security in the first half with just 5. Not so much here in the second half, 9. And that's led to some points for Samford. Said you got to have some really good transition defense. It's been good. And it's going to need to be really good as they press here in the remaining 4:24.
Bothwell fouled hard as Samford was going for another steal off the full court pressure. See if it's on Marshall, it would be just his 3rd. And keep in mind, it was early in the ball game that he picked up 2 and had to sit for most of the first half. So 3 on him. Now a 1-and-1 opportunity on the other end. You know, when it gets right down to it, and I had a very sage fellow in the college basketball world many years ago simply say, the game is all about threes. If my team shoots 50% and your team shoots 22% from beyond the arc, chances are you're going to be in front. The team at 50% is going to be up and up by double figures. It generally tends to work itself out that way. Bothwell will shoot another 30-point game in his career.
Well, when you're analytically looking at, you're correct. Look, if you shoot 33% behind the arc and you take as many 2s, you have to shoot 50% to score the same number of points. And so now, the way Furman has shot it here today, they've not cooled down. They've been really good behind the arc. It was Bothwell early, and now it has been a number of Paladins.
Lob underneath Marshall. Dangerous place, off balance, forced it. Slauson comes away with it. Obviously not the possession they were looking for, trailing by 14 as we come up on the 4-minute mark.
You said it about 4 minutes ago. Every time Samford tried to pull within, they got it to 10. Can they get it to single digits? The Furman offense has put points on the board, whether it's been in transition or at the free throw line.
No look pass by Heen to Foster. DJ Staten-McCray picking up his second for the Bulldogs. And that's just it. If the Paladins generally haven't been converting with a bucket, they've made a couple of free throws, or at least one, so they've constantly been adding on points.
Well, they set the defense up so well, and then they back cut. We said earlier, Bob Ritchie offensively, they'll run some sets, but they're so good in transition. But when they don't have it in the half court, where they can space you out, and then they can put 5 guys on the floor that can score in a variety of ways.
Furman averages about 82 a game. They've passed that. Top 15 in the nation as the weekend begins in points per game. Now a 16-point advantage coming up on 3.5 to go. Dye will fire over Heen. That was big. Just when they needed their 5th-year senior to come through, Logan Dye delivers from long range. Dye, 13 in the game. Samford trying to claw back in it. Bucky McMillan trying to get Samford its first ever #1 seed in the SoCon tournament, trying to get their program a first. Well, it's already gotten their program a first SoCon championship in the regular season since they joined the league back in the first decade of the century. They're trying to be the outright champs. That would be the case with a victory. And they're trying to get back to the NCAA tourney for the first time since 2000. Back when they were in the TAC, they went back-to-back years in '99 and 2000. It's well documented. Furman, a long NCAA tournament drought. 1980. The Geese nearly dragged the foot.
Both teams will be difficult to beat in Asheville, along with UNC Greensboro. Those are the 3 favorites. They separated themselves midway through January in league play.
Bothwell. Mike Bothwell adding on 33 in the game, closing in on that career high.
Well, if there was any question if Mike Bothwell had a slump the last couple of games before they get to Asheville, he has clearly dispelled any notion there.
Staten-McCray, pretty move, couldn't finish. And again, the Paladins come away with it. Now you're just trying to work some clock. If you're Furman, Paladins en route to a 6th win in their past 7 games in this building. Bob Ritchie coaching for the 12th time against Samford, about to go 10-2 if this lead holds. A stop right there that was pretty much essential for the Bulldogs. Not a lot of time though.
Nice job by McGee's keeping the ball out of Quez Glover's hands.
See if Heen's okay. He picks up his 5th foul, so that'll do it for him. First player to foul out in a very physical game.
Bob Ritchie trying to figure out, you've got some options, but who do you go with right here? There's not a lot of size on the Furman bench. If there's one area where, boy, you wish you had one more guy off the bench. Once Heen goes out, Slauson's really the only guy that can defend consistently inside. I think as much girth as Alex Williams adds, I think Foster's your next best post defender.
But a plus for Furman is that Samford's going to have to do a lot of scoring outside. So losing Heen, if you're going to lose him, I guess this is the point in the game where you could probably afford that the most. Marshall, another free throw goes down. He's had a tremendous second half. 16 points for him, all coming since the break. By the way, Mike Bothwell, we told you, he's hit 30 points. That's for the 4th time in his career. At 36 earlier this season. Stephen F. Austin. A couple of free throws for Marshall. First game, 46 combined fouls. So far in this contest, 34. Physical battles between these teams this year.
We will see nothing but full court pressure. I don't think that Samford, unless they can get a turnover, I don't know that they can allow Furman to play possessions out right now.
Samford is a pressing kind of team, so it's not like they're trying to do something desperately here. And we've seen them force several backcourt turnovers in the second half.
And here they will. They'll play this possession out. McGee said, no hurry.
Strong move. Wow. J.P. Pegues. Mike Bothwell's about to move on after a long Furman career. You have a pretty good idea as to who's going to take up the backcourt scoring slack for Bob Ritchie's club.
There's no question.
Good game for him. He has 18. Bad miss that time for Parham. Back over to Furman.
Back to Pegues, right? There's no question he's the most improved player in the Southern Conference. He is such an important player for their success, and he doesn't mind the big moment. Right, he understands his place. He knows Bothwell Slauson has been here 5 years, but boy, this is starting to become his team as well as the point guard.
Staten McCray called for the first one. Went for the steal. He's among the best in the SoCon of that category. In fact, coming into the game, Slauson right there for Furman had 50 steals on the year. And A.J. Staten McCray with 48. Idea how good he's been on the defensive end. The Paladins, who trailed for a stretch in the opening half 5-2 for a good long time. They ended up trailing for only 3 minutes and 4 seconds of this game. And they were up by 17 at the break, extended that to 19, and have maintained a double-figure advantage throughout the second half.
You said it numerous times. Every time Samford got this thing back to 10, they either couldn't get a basket or couldn't get a stop to get it to single digits, but credit Furman. They've been outstanding, and they're undefeated when they get to 90, although most teams are.
Bob Ritchie saw Samford close within 11 and didn't want to wait for the under timeout that was upcoming. Used a timeout around the 16-minute mark, and that's not normal for him. He usually just lets his team play on, but look back on that and you wonder if that might be one of the key moments in this game. The fact that he was able to stop the momentum with that timeout. Paladins again reaching 90 points, so back-to-back, what'll be back-to-back wins this year over Samford, each getting to 90 points, the first one in overtime.
It's the pace that Furman is best at. In fact, both teams are best when it's up and down. Not that they can't play in the half court in a slower pace game.
Glover's done his part. 24 points. His career high earlier this season when he scored 26 against La Tech.
Samford will be disappointed in the moment, but make no mistake, they're an outstanding team, and they go to Asheville next weekend with a chance to really, solve some things, and they can win. They can win it. I think Furman, Samford, and UNCG, clearly the elite of the Southern Conference. Can Wofford, can ETSU, can Western Carolina, can they win some games? Can they win it all? Yes, but I think those three, and Bucky McMillan and staff may be disappointed for the moment, but they're having an outstanding season.
Losses for Furman this year, a home game against UNCG that went overtime, in which Furman led big in the second half. But they also lost to Western Carolina when they led at the break on the road, and they lost at the Citadel a few games back. And Bob Ritchie pointing out that, you don't necessarily want to say, well, it's okay if we don't have to face UNCG in the semifinals. But he goes, we could face a team early on that's already beaten us this year. Marshall, great effort for him in the second half scoring. 15-point game, but under a minute to go, and you probably have to foul in a hurry as Pegues brings it mid-court for Samford.
I think at this point, they're just going to try to double team, force Furman into a turnover. If not, they recognize 15 too hard to come back from. Speaking of hard,
Bothwell trying to add some emphasis. Staten McCray picks up another foul. Bulldogs, by the way, they had already established a program milestone with back-to-back 20-win regular seasons. They were trying for a 16th conference win. They had never done that before. Look at this.
With the right hand, the offhand by 50-year guard out of Cleveland, Ohio. My goodness, didn't get it to go down, but to your point, trying to add a little emphasis. Such a good environment here at Samford. What Bucky McMillan and his staff have done. That's not what this student body wanted. And my guess is a large majority of this Samford campus here this afternoon.
Well, you see the look of dismay. Just the third home loss this year. They'll go 13-3 at home in the regular season, and it'll be their first SoCon home loss. Glover. Wow. Wes Glover from downtown, give him a new career high. 27 points for the Florida transfer. Paladins can just dribble it out. We'll come away with a very convincing win. And a very big moment. The Furman Paladins will have a #1 seed heading to the SoCon tournament. UNCG still has a chance to get a share of the Southern Conference Championship. For now, Samford and Furman will close the regular season sitting on top together. The Furman Paladins last had the #1 seed in the Southern Conference tournament in 1991. And that was back in the days when they sat and watched the first day of action everyone else played. And then it didn't go well for them. It was a 20-win season in their conference opener against Appalachian State. That team went on to the NIT. This Furman team has a goal. It's been that way really since a buzzer sounded ever so loudly for them last year at the end of the Southern Conference tournament to go back and get the first SoCon Tourney Championship and NCAA automatic bid since 1980. And Bob Ritchie's team will head to Asheville with a whole lot of momentum, winning 93-79.
24 wins, first #1 seed. What do you say about this Furman Paladin team?